Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new session. So, as you all know, Thursdays are for current updates, and here with me is Ananya.
Hello everyone.
Okay, so Ananya, what are we doing today?
So today we will be covering some important Indian texts as we know how much prominence Indian literature is right now. So we'll be doing current updates on important Indian texts.
Okay, so yes, as Ananya said today, in today's session of current updates, we will try to look at some important texts of Indian literature, right? So, let's move on. Okay. So let's get started with our first text today. So, as our point of departure for today, I am taking up the text which we got in the exam this time, the exam which happened on 18th June. So, there was a match the following question on Indian texts, and there was this text of Deepa Annapara, that is Jean Petrol on the purple line. This question was there in the match the following. So this is not a very common text we get to hear or know about very easily. So I thought let's take this as our point of departure for today, and then we will talk about more of such texts. Okay, so let's talk about this text so Jean Petrol on the Purple Line by Deepa Annapara. Okay, it was published in 2020, and this is her debut novel. It received wide praise and it won the Lucy Cavendish College Fiction Prize in 2019. Jean Petrol is shortlisted for the 2020 JCB Prize and was longlisted for the 2020 Women's Prize for Fiction. This novel also won the 2021 Edgar Award for Best Novel. This novel depicts a young child who attempts to investigate a mystery involving the disappearance of children from an impoverished slum. It tells of children living in a slum in a fictional Indian city who set out to find a classmate who has disappeared. So, a very important storyline, a very interesting plot. So, this is Jean Petrol on the Purple Line, and this is a novel by Deepa Annapara. All right, so let's move on to our next novel for today. Right, next, yes.
So Song of the Soil. The original title is Fatsum and it is a Nepali novel, 2019 Nepali novel by Chudan Kabimo. So the novel is based on the Gorkha land movement revolution that took place during the 1980s in the northern part of West Bengal. The Nepali edition of this novel, it was initially published in 2019 by Fine Print Publication in Nepal and Sambodhan Publication in India, because it was published in both the places. Then the story, it revolves around the friendship of an unnamed narrator with his friend Norden and on the backdrop of the movement, the Golkaland movement. Okay. And the one day, the narrator receives the news that Norden's death in a recent earthquake, and he decides to go back to his homeland in rural part of Nepali-speaking region of West Bengal. As the narrator is going back to his hometown, he recalls his childhood with his friend. The narrator and Norden are studying in a primary school when one day Norden decides to go find his lost father Ripden. The narrator and Norden then run away from their village to another village named Lolly, where they have heard Ripton's friend lived. During the search of Ripden, they come across a man called Nassim, who then tells them the story of Ripton and his involvement in the Gorkhaland movement of 1986. So you can see how the story has another narrative inside a narrative. This is Song of
Okay.
the Soil by Children Kabimo.
So the narratives revolving around Gorkhaland movement are very important. And Song of the Soil is a Nepali novel. Okay. So please do look up other novels which talk about this Gorkhaland movement and other Nepali novelists also who are very important. Okay. Let's move on to the next work. Okay. So before we move on, let's just give you all a small reminder that, as you all know, we have already started our admissions for NTNet 5-month hybrid course. And the classes will start from July 15th. So you can avail either offline or online classes as per your convenience. There will be classes 5 days per week from 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And here you will get classes for both papers 1 and 2. You will get all our printed books and materials, all the encyclopedias and question pads. And also you will get topic wise tests and model tests for daily practice. So if you haven't enrolled yet, hurry and get enrolled in this wonderful course for your net practice and net preparation. There are also 2 numbers on the screen where you can contact if you have any further queries. All right, let's move on. Okay, so next novel we will have to talk about is Gods and Ends. You can see this lovely cover page, also the cover of this book. Gods and Ends is a debut novel by the writer Lindsay Pereira. It was published by Penguin Random House, India, in March 2021. Set in Orlem, Malad, a suburban of Mumbai, populated by a large Roman Catholic community, it is described as a book about invisible people in a city of millions and the claustrophobia they rarely manage to escape from. So the setting is Mumbai. Gods and Ends, it's by Lindsay Pereira. Okay? Right. This title, Gods and Ends, is a reference to people who are twice marginalized for being a minority community and for living in a small, lesser known part of a large suburb. Right? So this is a very densely packed novel, which is talking about many things at the same time. There's trauma of being a minority community. You face so much when you are a minority in a particular place. So that, and again, the hardships you face when you are staying in the slums of Mumbai, the daily hardships regarding your finance, shelter, food, the basic amenities. So it's a very important novel, right? And the setting is Mumbai. It was published in 2021. Gods and Ends by Lindsay Pereira. It's a very important work. Right. Let's move on to the next work.
So this is Latitudes of Longing. This is the debut novel of the Indian author and journalist Shubhangi Swaroop. One of the first Indian languages. Oh, wait a second. Yes. Okay. So one of the first Indian languages to engage with environmental changes. It is a novella in 4 parts, and it features nature as a living, heaving entity. And a tectonically active fault line serves as the narrative thread for the whole novel. A literary fiction, the novel is set in the Indian subcontinent that follows the interconnected lives of its characters searching for true intimacy. So this is it's a debut novel of Shubhangi Swaroop. It's called Latitudes of Longing.
It's a very important work which talks about love, loss, intimacy, and also environmental issues. These days, novels or non-fictional works, that is both fiction and non-fiction, which talks about environmental issues, is very important. So let me just talk to you about the plot line very briefly to get you all, familiarized with the plot line and how this novel is talking about also love, loss, intimacy, and also environment, because environment these days is a very important and persistent issue, right? So this book, Latitudes of Longing, is made of, this novel consists of 4 novellas. That this novel has 4 parts. The titles are Islands, Fault Line, Valley, and Snow Desert. This suggests the book's emphasis on how people connect to their planet. Very important. So this work is talking about how people connect to their planet Earth, right? Islands is a story of an arranged marriage between 2 very different people that grows into genuine love. Girija Prasad, Indian born and Oxford educated, is a man of science. His bride, Chanda or Chanda Devi, has more education than many Indian women, but is also a mystique who routinely speaks to ghosts and trees. So she is the character who connects to nature very well. Chanda Devi is the character who, is connected to this planet, is connected to the Mother Earth, because she is the one who who routinely speaks to trees and can sometimes see the future. In the middle of the 28th century, Girija's government job takes them to the remote, yet wildly beautiful Andaman Islands. So here Andaman Islands is the major setting where the lion's share of the novel takes place, right? It's a penal colony under the British Empire that newly independent India is trying to figure out what to do with. The next part of the novel is Fault Line. This part delves into the lives of Mary, a Burmese woman who was Girija and Chanda's housekeeper, and her son, a political prisoner in Burma, who has renamed himself Plateau. These characters are also very important because this time we saw there was also match the following regarding the character names and the novel names. So be very careful about the characters as well. So here we have a character called Plateau, right? The next part of the novel, Valley, branches off from that section to follow Plateau's best friend, a smuggler from Nepal. Thapa is a man nearing 60, besotted by a girl young enough to be his granddaughter, whom he meets in a dance bar in Kathmandu. Thapa's travels lead to the final section of the novel, Snow Desert, and the story of Apo, the aged leader of an isolated village in the icy Karakora Mountains in the no man's land between Pakistan and India. Again, a very tightly packed novel talking about love, intimacy, religion, race, environment, Mother Earth, and, being the prisoner, identity politics, and everything, right? So please do look up more of these novels and writers, and also be very careful about the characters. Okay, right, next. Yes.
There's gunpowder in the air. It's the early 70s. The Naxalbari movement is gathering strength in Bengal. Young men and women have left their homes, picked up arms to flee land from the clutches of feudal landlords in the state, and return them to oppressed landless farmers. They are being arrested en masse and thrown into high security jails. Now, in one such jail, five Naxals are meticulously planning a jailbreak. They must free themselves if the revolution is to continue. But petty thief Bhagavan, much too happy to serve frequent terms for free food and shelter, has been planted by jailer Bireshwar Mukherjee among them as a mole. Only Bhagavan seems to be warming up to them. There's gunpowder in the air is a searing investigation into what deprivation and isolation can do to human idealism. And this novel is by Manoranjan Vyapari, and he is perhaps the most refreshing voice to emerge from Bengal in recent times. So this novel is set against, of course, Naxalbari movement, and then you can see the pivotal character is Bhagavan here.
Okay. So as you all might remember or might not, previously also in such one session of current updates, we had talked about an autobiographical work called Interrogating My Chandal Life. So that's a very important autobiographical work by Manoranjan Vyapari, the same person we're talking about now. So Manoranjan Vyapari, he is a very important contemporary Dalit writer from West Bengal. So he has written many important works. He has almost created a very important corpus of Dalit literature. So his first important work is Interrogating My Chandal Life. That's his autobiography. And the next important work is this one. There's Gunpowder in the Air. And the translators are also very important because he writes in Bengali. And all his Bengali works have been translated by other major critics and writers, right? So this work has been translated from Bengali into English by Arunabha Sinha. So please remember the translators as well. They're very important. So Manoranjan Vyapari, please remember that he's an Indian Bengali writer, socio-political activist, and a politician. He stands as one of the pioneering authors in the realm of Dalit literature in Bengali, hailing from the state of West Bengal. Hindered by financial constraints, he was precluded from availing formal education, thereby distinguishing himself as a unique exemplar. a former convict turned rickshaw puller, having authored a substantial corpus comprising 12 novels. Manoranjan Vapari has written 12 novels, in addition to over 100 short stories and also non-fiction essays. So he's a very important contemporary Dalit writer from the state of West Bengal. He has written many works, and all of his works have been translated from Bengali into English by other critics. So do look up all of his works, his novels, and also his translators. And also remember this work, it's very important. There's gunpowder in the air. It is set against the backdrop of the Naxalbari movement. We have also read about this background while coming across Maheshwara Devi's works, right? Naxalbari movement is a very well-known event we all know and we have talked about and read about. So please remember these works. Okay, next. Okay, My Father's Garden. It's a work by Hansda Shovendra Shekhar. Again, this writer is very famously known for his work, The Adivasi Will Not Dance. We have also discussed this work in one of our current update sessions. The Adivasi Will Not Dance. So we had already discussed that. So today we will discuss his work, My Father's Garden. So spanning half a life, My Father's Garden tells the story of a young doctor. He's the unnamed narrator as he negotiates love and sexuality, his need for companionship, and the burdens of memory and familial expectation. The opening section of this novel is called Lover. And in this section, we find him studying medicine in Jamshedpur. At college, he discovers an all-consuming passion for Shomir, a junior who possesses his mind, body, and heart. Yet, on their last morning together, when he asks Shomir to kiss him goodbye, his lover tells him a kiss is only for someone special. So the first disappointment and heartbreak he faces in love. In the next section, in Friend, the young doctor, escaping heartbreak, finds relief in Pakur, where he strikes up an unusual friendship with, it's Boro Babu actually, so Bara Babu, the head clerk of the hospital where he is posted. In Boro Babu's house, they indulge a shared love for drink, delicious food, and convivial company. But when government bulldozers arrive to tear down the neighborhood and Boro Babu's house, the young doctor uncovers a sordid tale of apathy and exploitation, and a side to his new friend that leaves him disillusioned. And in Father, the last section of this novel, unable ultimately to flee the pain, the young doctor takes refuge in his parents' home in Ghatshila. As he heals, he reflects on his father, once a vital man who had phenomenal success at work and in Adivasi politics, then an equal precipitous downfall, and wonders if his obsessive gardening has anything to do with the choices his son has made. Again, somehow, as many of you can make out from this cover, again, environment and nature is a very important theme. Also, homosexual love and desire, fantasies, then disappointment and pain in love is also a very important and major theme. Again, Hansda Shovendra Shekhar is a very important contemporary writer, which we all should read about and look up. So let me just tell you a bit more about this very important contemporary writer. So ethnically, Hansda Shovendra Shekhar, he's a Santhal. Okay, so he's a very important Santhal writer, one of India's Adivasi groups. The background and this background is reflected in his fiction. So all his experiences of being a Santhal, of being an Adivasi, is very clearly captured in all his fictional works, right? And his stories are rich in fine details that add to the deep dimensions and open to us a world we have deliberately dismissed, and contain a surplus of understanding that comes from a kind insider outsider. Again, this identity politics of being an outsider in your own country. So he is an insider outsider, because though this is his own country, still because he's an Adivasi, because he's a Santhal, he has always been treated as an outsider in his own country, right? So there's pain of being an outsider in his own country. right? So all these things are coming together in his fictional works. The Adivasi Will Not Dance, My Father's Garden, very important works. Do look him up and his works, right? Next, move on to the next work. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's all for tonight. And before we wrap up, let's give you all a small reminder that we have started our admissions for NTNet 5-month hybrid course, where you will get classes for both papers 1 and 2. You will get our printed books and materials, also topic-wise tests, model tests. The classes will start from July 15th. You will have 5 classes, classes 5 days a week. And also there are 2 numbers on the screen where you can contact if you have any queries, any doubts, and it will be resolved as soon as possible. Right then, so I really hope you all like the session. Ananya, shall we wrap up?
Yes, I really love how this information is not just something that you'll find in all curriculums or textbooks, and this is where people can find areas for research, you know. So many queries that come, how to research. This is where when you know new things, you know the current updates. The session is not only for net, you know, it's so much more, and I hope people are taking it like that and learning from it. All right. Good night, everyone.
Yes. And if you liked our session, please like the video too.